Hello dear fashion enthusiasts, welcome to Brandibay Fashion. What a pleasure to have you with us to explore the wonders of the Gucci Spring-Summer 2026 show at Milan Fashion Week. Today, we dive into the bold and innovative world of Demna Gvasalia, making his highly anticipated debut at Gucci. Instead of a traditional runway show, Demna surprises us with a revolutionary approach. A captivating lookbook, a short film titled The Tigre, and a dazzling premiere worthy of the grandest red carpets. Every image, every scene, is a testament to his creative genius and his desire to break conventions. What you are about to discover is much more than just a collection. It is a sensory experience that redefines fashion codes. Here, Demna asserts his categorical refusal of established rules, reminding us why he is an indispensable figure in the fashion world. So, settle in comfortably and let me guide you through this unique visual experience. What you will discover in this video is the first complete vision of Gucci, combining the prestigious heritage of the house with a deconstructionist and offbeat aesthetic, an undeniable signature of the brand. Satin skirt ensembles adorned with the famous GG monogram are accompanied by pointed boots and microbelts that evoke a certain nostalgia, with a touch of irony. You will find dresses adorned with crystal pearls, shimmering with an almost cinematic glow. They pay homage to Tom Ford's golden era while sporting strict proportions and turtlenecks reminiscent of Demna's modern influences. A bold mix that speaks to those who love to stand out with style and character. Even the most casual outfits do not lack impact. Black crocodile print miniskirts paired with turtlenecks and boots create a powerful and assertive look, suggesting a modern woman who dresses for power rather than merely to seduce. The Tigre amplified this atmosphere, blending glamour and subversion. Demi Moore, Kendall Jenner, Keke Palmer, and Alex Consani brought Demna's characters to life, their performances mixing red carpet fantasy with hints of danger and seduction. The film's finale, with its orange and gold crystal dress floating on a dimly lit set, was a direct provocation to the idea of natural minimalism, a maximalism with a dark and cinematic edge. You will be able to admire the custom-made gown adorned with feathers worn by Serena Williams. Is it not a perfect blend of sensuality and strength? It immediately sets the tone for what this collection has in store. Then, marvel at the monogram satin ensemble that Gwyneth Paltrow wears with grace. It is the very symbol of the discreet and refined chic that Gucci knows so well how to embody. And how can one not mention the ragazza look worn by Lila Moss? It brilliantly reaffirms the brand's appeal to Generation Z, a perfect symbiosis between tradition and modernity. The true genius of Demna is revealed here, not only through exceptional clothing, but also in his ability to create unforgettable cultural moments. Dear fashion enthusiasts, this show is designed to leave an imprint that goes far beyond the boundaries of the fashion world. This bold show chose to deviate from traditional structures, a decision that might seem perilous. You will notice that the clothes, although undeniably elegant, sometimes appear to blend into the brilliance of the cinematic spectacle and the dazzling guest list present. Some pieces of the collection, more subtle, might go unnoticed amidst this whirlwind of celebrities and staging. However, this is precisely the subtlety of Demna's strategy. By blurring the lines between product, performance, and advertising, he manages to transcend the usual conventions of fashion. As enthusiasts, you will discover how this innovative approach enriches your perception of clothing, offering an immersive experience where each element plays a crucial role. This show, my friends, is much more than a simple presentation of clothing. It is a truly bold prologue orchestrated by the talented Demna. Under his direction, Gucci does not merely follow trends, but reinvents the art of fashion by telling artisanal stories that captivate our imagination. Each season becomes a unique cultural intervention, a dialogue between the past and the future. By observing this collection, you will discover a result that combines glamour and avant-garde with brilliance. This is exactly what Gucci needed to redefine the codes of Milanese fashion. Expect to be surprised by polarizing pieces that challenge conventions while remaining decidedly elegant. Gvasalia masterfully fused Gucci's heritage with his avant-garde vision. The lookbook revealed a series of pieces where the classic flirted with the contemporary, while the film immersed viewers in a world where glamour and danger coexist. The bold accessories and deconstructed silhouettes not only paid homage to the brand's past, but also paved the way for new interpretations of femininity and elegance. However, this approach may sometimes seem too abrupt for fashion purists, who prefer more traditional presentations. Furthermore, the abundance of iconoclastic elements could overshadow the finesse and subtlety that often characterize haute couture collections. Just as Coco Chanel revolutionized women's fashion with the Chanel suit, Gvasalia redefines the contours of luxury fashion by infusing it with a spirit of stylish rebellion. The famous anecdote where Chanel introduced trousers for women in a context where they were reserved for men finds an echo in how Gvasalia boldly and confidently reimagines women's outfits. The Gucci Spring-Summer 2026 collection under Demna Gvasalia's direction is a vibrant testament to how fashion can serve as a mirror to cultural and social transformations. It invites us to re-examine our own perceptions of elegance and style. I warmly thank you for following this report. If you enjoyed the video, feel free to subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. Give it a thumbs up, share your impressions in the comments, and express your views on this transformation of Gucci. Enjoy the rest of the show, and as Yves Saint Laurent once said, "Fashions fade, style is eternal." Goodbye, and always keep a critical yet passionate eye on fashion.
do you see me? I mean, be honest.
Mom, you look so beautiful.
As a leader? As an icon? As a mother?
I am. I want to be. Yeah, I want to be a lot of things. Do you think I can?
Mom, can I ask you a question?
Yes, sweetheart.
What do you do if you're in a room with a tiger?
Why would I be in a room with a tiger?
You already are.